I'm Roxanne Patel Shepalavi. I am co-executive director of the Philadelphia Citizen.
Yeah.
Those are my fans.
And I'm Larry Platt, the co-founder of the Citizen. About 6 of you, yeah. So, like any great event, let's begin with a little bit of copyright infringement. I want to give you a sense of why we're here and the genesis of why we're here. A couple years ago, just to paint the word picture for you, I was at home one night on the sofa eating Fruity Pebbles and watching...
That's not true.
Yeah, and watching the ESPYs. And as you may know, the ESPYs is not just awarding athletic accomplishment. It's also awarding athletes who go above and beyond on civic matters. And I thought, this is what Philadelphia needs. We need an ESPYs of civic engagement. Came in the next day, said to Roxanne, we need an ESPYs of civic engagement. And she said, what the hell is the ESPYs? So,
It's kind of true.
So, and it aligns with the mission of the Citizen. As many of you know, we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan media organization that's dedicated to reinvigorating democracy in the American city where it was born. And you know, part of our aha moment on this thing was that no one talks about the planes that land safely, right? That's not news. And we decided that there are plenty of intractable problems in Philadelphia, but there are people who deserve attention, who are trying to fix those problems every day in Philadelphia. They are, and they're the people we're honoring tonight, they are landing those planes every day in our city. And so tonight, together, we're going to honor people who stick the landing. That is that is the mission of the Citizen, and that is our mission tonight and going forward. Hopefully, this is just the first annual ESPYs of civic engagement.
If you could get the words out. Yes. So first of all, I want to thank everybody in this room for being here, and I want you all to take a look at people's lapels, because there's a lot of really good flair in the room. So well done on the branding, whoever has that. I wanted to just throw a couple shout outs out there. So I want to shout out all of our sponsors led by FS Investment and Penn Medicine. I would love to, and everybody who bought a table and everybody who bought a seat and found their seat in this big room. I would love to shout out the Fittler Club, this beautiful space. They are great partners for us. And when you see the people here, just take a minute to thank some of the people who are working really hard here. Shout out to DJ Six back there, who in addition to spinning tunes throughout the night, will also play snippets of the walk-up songs for each of our honorees that they mostly picked, except for a couple places where we picked them. A Novel Idea is outside. They are a small local bookstore. They're actually my local bookstore, so please frequent them. They are out there selling some of the banned books that are featured on Ali Velshi's Banned Book Club on MSNBC. So in about an hour, we're going to be calling up some friends to award our honorees. But first, we are going to hear from the aforementioned Ali Velshi, an MSNBC host and also a Citizen board member. And he's going to talk to actor and activist George Takei, the celebrity in the room who's over here, who is, yes, who is an actor and activist. I think everybody knows who he is. And both of them speak and live and write really beautifully about citizenship, and they're going to talk about the importance of local citizenship. We have Mr. Takei's book outside also for you to buy if you're interested after he speaks. And we are excited to announce that we are also going to host Ali's book launch here at the at the Fitler Club on May 7th. So we hope to see all of you in the room for that too. And Ali, of course, will be here.
Smartest bald man on television, Ali Velshi. And I'm friends with Smirkanish.
Raise your hand if you've heard Larry tell that joke before. So thank you all for being here. Enjoy your meals. You can eat while all this is happening, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Please welcome to the stage Ali Velshi and George Takei.
That never gets old. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. It's amazing to look out at this crowd. It was never going to be a problem when once George agreed to join us. But as Larry and Roxanne were saying, this is an organization that is focused on civic engagement. And if you're going to go through the list of people who are identified today with civic engagement, it will not take you long to get to George Takei. So we invited George to come, and he was so gracious. George, it is like my dad just can't believe it that I sit and actually talk to George Takei. He thinks that's the craziest thing in the entire world. By the way, the book which we're going to talk about, you should get. It's amazing, and you should get it soon because you've got another book coming out in April. So that'll be fantastic. George, I want to talk to you about the moment in which we exist. By the way, I want to say hi to Brad. Brad, thank you for bringing Brad Takei. I want to talk to you about the moment in which we exist because you've had a few spins around the sun and times have been interesting in America, but we're in this place where when you walk into an event like this and you see people you haven't seen for a few months, they all kind of give a look like, well, this world is crazy. It feels out of control. It feels out of reach. It feels like the problems that we are confronting are bigger than any of us. And in moments like that, you can get overwhelmed, you can get a little depressed, or you can retreat to civic engagement. You can retreat to the things that you might be able to have an influence upon and move. And that's where you've lived for about the past 20 years, longer really, but you've really been a very, very well-known activist, and you try and move the things you can move. Tell me where you are in this crazy world that we're in.
Well, when I was 5 years old, this world went crazy. We're Americans. My grandparents came to the United States from Japan in the 1890s. They went into farming in the Sacramento Delta. My mother was born there. My father was born in Japan, but he lost his mother when he was a child, and he and his father and his older brother, or his father, my grandfather, decided to start life anew and came with his two boys to San Francisco. So my father was born in Japan, but he grew up and he was reared in San Francisco, went to school, went to college, and started a business in San Francisco. And so we were Americans, but with one explosive event, our world went upside down. Well, throughout the world went upside down. The Second World War began. But my parents were reluctant to go outside and walk to the grocery store because if they were caught walking down the street, they were yelled at, spat at, called spies and traitors and all sorts of horrible things. And they graffitied our businesses, our homes. My father's car had 3 letters written on it in red paint, JAP, simply because we happen to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. We were vilified. And it wasn't just the know-nothings that yelled and graffitied. The government, the city, county, state, and the United States government got swept up in the same hysteria. They categorized us as enemy alien. We were the very opposite of that. We were Americans, not aliens, and we were not the enemy. We were neighbors and business people, and yet the world went crazy, not unlike today, when we have a whole group of acolytes called Republicans that have taken their brains out and given it to one man who is lacking in brains, so he needs all that, but not very bright. And so I come from a world that went crazy. The government came down with a curfew on Japanese Americans. We were Americans who looked like this. We looked just like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor, and so they put a curfew on us. We had to be home by 8 o'clock and stay home until 6 a.m. If you were caught walking around at night, the police picked you up and threw you in jail. They came down with a freezing of our bank accounts. Our money was gone. The government took it. We were economically straitjacketed. And then on February 19th, 1942, the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a man that my father admired, especially in the 30s, but he signed Executive Order 9066, which ordered all Japanese Americans on the West Coast to be summarily rounded up, no trial, no due process, simply to be rounded up and imprisoned in 10 barbed wire prison camps with no justification other than they categorized us as enemy alien. These prison camps were in some of the most desolate, God-forsaken places in this country. The blistering hot desert of Arizona, the sultry swamps of Arkansas, the cold windswept high plains of Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. And we were to be imprisoned there. I still remember that morning. It was in May. My father came into the bedroom that I shared with my brother, younger brother, Henry. I was 5, Henry was 4, and he dressed us hurriedly and told us to play in the living room while he and our mother did some last-minute packing. We had a baby sister, but she was an infant in a cradle in our parents' bedroom. And so, there was nothing to do in the living room, so we were standing by the front window, just gazing out at the neighborhood, when suddenly we saw 2 soldiers marching up our driveway. They carried rifles with shiny bayonets on them. They stomped up the front porch and with their fists began banging on the door. Henry and I were frozen with terror. My father came rushing out of the bedroom, answered the door. One of the soldiers pointed the bayonet at him. I mean, Henry and I just were terrorized and they said, get your family out of this house. This in America against ordinary, innocent people that happened to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. That was the beginning of a horrific period for Americans of Japanese ancestry. And yet, when I was no longer a child, but a teenager curious about the internment, I engaged my father in after-dinner conversations. And I learned about democracy from my father. I realized when I was a little bit older what an extraordinary man my father was, because he was the one that suffered the most. We were transferred from one camp to another, to 3 camps over the 4-year period. And he was elected block manager at each of those camps because he spoke both Japanese and English fluently, and he was able to communicate with the immigrant generation, as well as 2/3 of us were American-born, and we were more comfortable with English. So he played that role of block manager that had to settle problems within the block, as well as represent the needs of the block to the administration, and sometimes get in a confrontational situation. And there was fractionalization within the camp, and he had to deal with those issues. And so he knew not just the larger picture of internment, but all of the conflicts and the terror that the soldiers inflicted upon people. Were dragged out of their barracks in the middle of the night, the women crying and sobbing. And he said, he quoted to me often Abraham Lincoln's that phrase from the Gettysburg Address. Ours is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. He said, those are noble ideals, but therein also lies the weakness of America, because the people are fallible human beings. And even that great man he admired, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, was a human being. He said he was a great president in the 30s when we were in the depth of a horrific economic depression. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were jobless, homeless, hungry, lining up in great long lines for a bowl of soup. And he saw that the spirit of America was broken. He had to galvanize the American people to bring the economy up. And he said to them, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. And that brought the economy up. But when Pearl Harbor was bombed, this great president was filled with fear, because he realized that we were not prepared for an attack at Pearl Harbor. And the entire west coast of the United States was equally open, unprepared, and vulnerable. And this president became fearful and was swept up by the racism and the fear of the American people. And he signed Executive Order 9066. So he said, my father said to me, to teenage me, this is a people's democracy, and each citizen has both the blessings, but as well the responsibility of citizenship. And he urged all 3 of us, his children, to be active, to be involved. And he said, volunteer for whatever needs there may be when earthquake should happen, or typhoon, or other events like that. And so I became a volunteer with the Junior Red Cross. I was elected president of the Junior Red Cross at my middle school. And I went on to run for student body president. and I got elected. And
There you go.
well, thank you.
That's citizenship.
But I learned about the responsibility that we citizens have. And then when the presidential election happened, he took me to the Adlai Stevenson for President campaign headquarters, and I say I volunteered, but it was my father that volunteered me. But I found electoral politics exciting. There was something that appeals to an actor. There was excitement, working together. There was suspense, anticipation, and working in concert. And it's building to a climax. And the climax on election night is either explosive joy and victory or black tragedy. And Adlai Stevenson's campaign was black tragedy. He was a great man, eloquent speaker, and I saw what my father was talking about. But that got me to be a political activist, engaged in other campaigns for U.S. Senator from California, Governor of California, and when our city councilman, the first African-American city councilman in Los Angeles, ran for mayor, we volunteered for his campaign, and we won, and he appointed to the board of the Southern California Rapid Transit District, so it got me more engaged. But it was out of that horrific, chaotic a period of internment, imprisonment, internal struggle, outrage by the soldiers.
Almost betrayal, really, by your own country.
Yes, and that led to my activism. But
So-
it was my father who suffered the most.
So that's interesting because some people are led to citizenship because of positive experiences. Some are led to it by negative or disappointing experiences like your father. But for anybody who was wondering why it is you're coming to a Philadelphia Citizen event to listen to George Takei talk about civic engagement, that was your answer. You come by it honestly. And it's interesting because now, at your age, having had your success, when you put your thumb on a scale, it moves things. But this is the important part that I wanted people to hear, that you started this when you're volunteer on somebody's local campaign or a small, very, very small piece of somebody's bigger campaign. That's the important thing to take away for us in this moment, that you cannot change the world is not relevant. That you will not eat from the fruit of the tree whose seed you plant is not relevant. You do what you must do and what you can do in the time. So you're growing up and you're interested in learning more about the internment, and you found some difficulty in finding good information. Most of us know the broad strokes of the story, but we don't know the texture and the granularity that you bring. So you decided recently, in 2019, to write a book about it, and you deliberately caused it to be a very accessible book. It is a graphic novel, available for sale. And it is a story that, it's so interesting when you tell the story because you really are honoring democracy and politics and civic engagement in the story. But some people who saw your book decided that it was critical of America and that somehow we shouldn't have things that are critical of our history, including the moments that deserve criticism, and then tried to ban your book, which is how we came to talk about it. Exactly. So I want to ask you about that, and I want to ask you about the fact that when I talked to you about the book ban, I referred to the Japanese internment camps. And you said they weren't Japanese internment camps. We weren't interring Japanese people. We were holding Japanese Americans, American citizens, people who were born here or became Americans.
And those camps were in the United States of America. Arizona, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. And American citizens who looked like this were ordered by the President of the United States to be imprisoned. So I tell people, Japanese internment camps were run by Japan. This was an American internment camp. So please get the terminology right.
Right.
We were Japanese Americans, people of Japanese ancestry, imprisoned in American prison camps in America, ordered there by the President of the United States.
An important piece of history that you are not griping about. You just think it's important that people know our history.
Words make a difference.
But you have joined a list of people who have written about our history. And interestingly enough, you're a point of intersection because most of the books banned today in this new round of book banning that we've seen in the last couple of years have largely been about LGBTQ people or by LGBTQ people. And a certain portion of them are about pieces of American history that some people don't want their kids reading. You're both.
1619.
1619, perfect example.
That's when it happened.
Yep.
When it began.
That's how we started our band book club with
Original
Nicole
Sin.
Hannah-Jones. Yeah, the original sin. Yeah,
The original sin of America.
So obviously this didn't catch on. A whole bunch of people didn't decide, oh, we're definitely banning George Takei's book. And the good thing about book bans is it actually sells books. But did that surprise you?
You know, when my book was banned in York, Pennsylvania,
That's
right
right.
here in Pennsylvania, some of these yahoos who have big mouths, went to the library board and yelled and screamed, and the volume of their voice, not the volume or the number of people, yelled and screamed. And alas, a lot of these boards are made up of people that are easily swayed. However, when the word got out that they called us enemy, was banned, bless their hearts, you Star Trek fans out there. Just because I wrote the book, they bought it before the yahoos bought it, or I don't think they even bought it.
No. What we've learned is the book banners don't typically read the books.
No, they don't.
Yours is not, with all due respect, not ban-worthy. It's like, if you find this offensive, then there's just a critical reading
And
problem.
Star Trek fans
Yes.
read books as well.
But this is an interesting concept, the Star Trek fans. Let's go back to that. And it's kind of interesting. You can tell somebody's age when I tell them I'm interviewing George Takei, whether they say Captain Sulu, or Commander Sulu, or Lieutenant Sulu. But there you go. So you can, that's the older people in the crowd applauding. The one interest, I was always fascinated by Star Trek, but the one takeaway here is that Gene Roddenberry and the writing team on Star Trek really thought through, at a time when prejudice remained rampant in the United States, thought through how you identify the other, something we would call alien today. They literally, they thought that through. The first instinct was not enemy. The first instinct was curiosity. The first instinct was, in what way do we communicate with them? What are their norms? Tell me about that and how that merged with your own thinking. Because Star Trek really was a lesson in the fact that it's a big, diverse world out there, and we can flourish in it. We can prosper in it.
Exactly. In fact, Gene Roddenberry thought that the 1960s was a time in America that was great for writers. So much turbulence and drama going on. The civil rights movement, peacefully, African Americans peacefully demonstrating for equality. And law enforcement officers are attacking them with attack dogs or fire hoses. At the same time, there was the Vietnam War going on. And college students who were demonstrating for peace were being attacked by law enforcement officers and taking pot shots at them. And one young man at Kent State was killed by those attacks. So that was a turbulent time, and Gene wanted to write about the drama, but he's writing for
So it was
television.
designed to be a metaphor.
I beg your-
It was designed to be a metaphor.
Exactly. It was metaphor. To put it in the future, the 23rd century, and the Starship Enterprise was a metaphor for Starship Earth. And the strength of the Starship lay in its diversity coming together.
Which is pretty edgy, even for its day.
Exactly. And the captain was a white man played by a Canadian. And the engineer was a European, a Scotsman. Scots are famous for shipbuilding. And he too, the actor, Jimmy Doohan, was a Canadian. And he shared with me, he's getting famous as a Scotsman, but actually, he's Irish.
That's right.
And a Canadian to boot. And Africa, that huge chunk of this planet, was represented by a black person, a female, Nichelle Nichols as Uhura. He had a real quandary with the name for, that's for Nichelle, that huge, vast part of this planet called Asia.
Right.
And Asia in itself has great diversity. And his problem was how to get a name for this Asian character when there's all that diversity. And 20th century Asia was a pretty turbulent place.
Yep.
Warfare, colonization, rebellion, and he didn't want to suggest that. And so he had a map of Asia pinned on the wall, and he was staring at it, and off the coast of the Philippines, he found a place, or a sea called the Sulu Sea, and he thought the waters of a sea touch all shores, and hence my character's name, Sulu. However, since he cast a Japanese American, he gave him a Japanese a first name,
Right.
Surname being Sulu. So, Star Trek had Gene Roddenberry's genius, inventiveness, and his passion for telling timely stories in metaphor.
But because of you and your colleagues, many of us grew up thinking that's how the world could work. And I think that was amazing. Let's talk about something that's worthy of applause. That is definitely, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about something people may not know, because they know you as a gay man now, but they may not have remembered when that happened. It was less than 20 years ago. You were past the point that you had anything to prove to anybody. Tell me about that.
I was closeted most of my adult life because I was an aspiring actor. I passionately wanted to be an actor. But my heartthrob when I was in my teens was a handsome, blonde contract actor at Warner Brothers. Most of you may not recognize the name, Tab Hunter. Some of you do. Handsome guy, wonderful actor, took his shirt off often. and he was the lead in almost every movie coming from Warner Brothers Studios. I saw every one of his films, Damn Yankee, Battle Cry. But one of the scandal sheets exposed him as being gay. And suddenly, he disappeared. That was a lesson for me. If I wanted to be an actor, a professional actor, I cannot let it be known that I'm gay. And I was pretty good at being closeted because from the time I was a child, I was imprisoned for being different. And as I got older, I discovered that I am different. I'm attracted to other boys, athletic boys, pretty boys. And if I let it be too obvious, I can't aspire to an acting career. But I'm an actor. So in middle school when one of our classmates named Monica prematurely was blossoming forth in full womanhood, they would all get hot and bothered, my buddies, Oh, wow, Monica's hot. I thought Monica was nice. But I saw that that's not the way the other guys are acting. So I joined in. Wow, Monica is. And so I acted my way through most of my adult life as a closeted gay guy. And it wasn't until, and being closeted isn't just the compressed life that you have, but there's guilt. Because here I am protecting my career and my job opportunities when, after Stonewall, the gay liberation movement began, and these guys were giving up so much, their jobs, their careers, their opportunities, and some lost even their families, and they were campaigning for my issue that I'm keeping my mouth. There I was, active in the civil rights movement and peace movement during the Vietnam War, and they're doing it for me. And if I'm an activist, I should be there, and I'm not. And it fills you with guilt. And so it's a combination of guilt as an activist and keeping my mouth shut when I want to be out there. But they were starting to make an impact as the calendar marched on. And in 2003, Massachusetts got marriage equality via their Supreme Court. And 2 years later, in California, our legislature, the state legislature, the state senate and the state assembly passed the marriage equality bill. Brad and I were overjoyed. We thought, it's happening. We're going to be bookends, Massachusetts on the East Coast and California on the West Coast. And that bill needed one more signature, that of the governor of our state, who happened to be a movie star at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he campaigned for the governor's office, he campaigned by saying, I'm from Hollywood. I've worked with gays and lesbians. Some of my friends are, and created the impression that he was okay with marriage equality for LGBTQ people. And a few of our gay friends did vote for him. And we respected their right to, vote the way they wanted to. But when the marriage equality bill landed on his desk, he vetoed it, and we were raging. But Brad and I were at home watching the news, and we saw young people pouring out onto Santa Monica Boulevard. And I said, it's time. And that's when I came out and spoke to the press as a gay man and blasted Schwarzenegger's veto.
That is the moment we'll stop at, because it just underscores the point. It's never too early, it's never too late to be an engaged citizen. You were a hero to us all those years on TV. You remain a hero to me. It's an honor. I wish we had 3 times as much time, but we will just keep...
You're my hero too.
Thanks, my friend.
Ali, I'm a fan.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Takei. And with that, our awards will commence.